advice. I've been receiving so much advice from desperate people. It's kind of different when you have to look at the economy of scale, right? This is why I put up the video of the mountain, because it's a fact, right? And I really wanted to see some design or some designs or what someone would come up with and so forth, based on what I've already drawn up in my head, based on a lot of things, weight, just everything, right? I gave out a few pixels about what is what, but here's the thing: it's very cost effective. I know how absolutely important that is for it to be below its budget. For it's like, when you have an iPhone, it's pretty expensive, based on what it's made of, right? Which most other companies cannot do. We're talking about material here. I mean, this is what it's why Samsung is a bit plasticky and so forth. Yeah, advice from even actors and shows, and then you come back to Namibia, and when you get out, these are different realities, right? So Namibia's reality is we are, economically speaking, a middle income country. This middle income is based on the revenue that we gain based on the world and based on the size of our country, the population, right? This problem of a small population but a really big country is something that places like China don't have. China has too many people and a puny country, right? So they squeeze as much as they can to get out the best that they can. Most of the time, what most people are getting is a very hardworking person, maybe someone who works for a business in construction that doesn't even get the minimum wage based on even our currency. You get a lot of kids that work in a lot of factories that are underage, right? So the poverty is hidden very, very well. That I've noticed. When my when my console got bricked, I know it's a Trojan because it was on an empty open network, and I refused to upgrade, because just I can fix it anyway. I'll open it up. So yeah, there are some videos that I didn't post because I didn't feel like it. Right? I felt like this is the moment to not let people guess, but to let imaginations run wild, for me to also get out some sort of perspective, because I wanted some answers, some actual views that are tangible. But the only tangible views that I could get my hands on is the world right now. We are dealing with some real global challenges. Everybody. As a matter of fact, if we had the power, Africa as a continent could be charging all of the other continents for money based on their carbon emissions, because this is not our mess. But we don't have the economic capacity, nor do we have the legal or social capacity for us to start breaching international laws. International laws are, they are approached differently. You approach it military, using the military, right? That is to stamp that this is a place that is not adhering to certain rules. And then there's dialogue, and then there is democracy. China has shown a lot of democracy in this 1 year. Like in the last couple of months, China has shown a lot of democracy. That shows also that they are also looking at economy of scale now. They are looking at their population, they are looking at their output, but then they are looking at how many mouths are they really feeding, and globally, where do they stand? And they cannot stand as a powerful dollar bill currency because of these hurdles that they have yet to climb themselves, because they have a lot of gaps. So when you look at Namibia, a country like Namibia, or most countries, this is why I don't say Namibia, Jose, because Namibia is a country we are very closely linked to South Africa, based, I'm not South Africa, but America actually, believe it or not, based on what we get in terms of input, and similar to South Africa, based on what we get from South Africa. But what we get from South Africa is actually something that was there to begin with. We don't have currency independence. That is, we don't have economic freedom yet, based on the fact that the SADC trade is really, really bad. If we start to negotiate with Angola about oil, South Africa will start panicking, as they have shown. Panic over oil. They have shown panic over their monopolies. They've shown panic. But even if they are showing panic, even though they are, trying to threaten, even though they are finally admitting the fact that they might not have as much money as they thought they did, based on the natural resources that they have, which should be human capital first, then material second. This is what China had to learn the hard way. And this is something that we don't have to learn, right? Because we inherited democracy. We inherited it. Let's be honest. This country was not moving towards a multi-party system. In fact, the country, the pressure points, like I call them the barometers. The barometers had to switch a lot of times. They had to switch from communist to democracy, from democracy to communist. This was happening based on global powers at that time, and it should be viewed as that time, because through democracy, that's what you get every time it refreshes, right? And there's no better way to sort of look at a refreshed system than look at America. If you go back to slavery, to what they have now, where they have a black minority, and us here, we have a white minority. This just shows how democracy sort of spins things, almost like picking out the lucky contestant. But what comes out of peaceful democracy, this has to be secured by a military force. This is what you use when the negotiations are not going well, right? When you're not getting people to sit down and objectively and pragmatically look at things, right? And the problem is, when it comes to democracy and finance and the free market system, is that there is always someone that is benefiting indirectly. These are the people that would sort of give weapons to terrorists, give weapons to guerrilla fighters, right? We've had this. It's in the past. That's what I'm saying. Past is past. Let's not linger on the past, but look at the present. Middle income country. You have to look at the world. Imagine the world as one country, And then imagine all of the countries as neighbors, and then think about how much each working country is getting, right? We would be at that point where we are middle income, and stronger countries would be countries like America, and how the rest used to be. I'm sorry, but it's the truth, and that's the funny thing about it. Now everybody sees the value of peace, right? That peace can be attained and should be attained, and that peace, more importantly, should and must be protected by any means necessary, right? That's where patience comes in. And that is where you start to look at the pressure points. What are the pressure points upon society? Will those pressure points, would they recycle in the next generation? Would those pressure points recycle when these people are older? You have to look at all of that. You have to look at the youth. When they are newborn babies, you cannot just, as a government, as a country, look away and say, well, who cares about that child? That's not my concern. Because if you are a leader or an aspiring leader, that is your concern, right? It's it's what's meant by our girls. It's what we mean by our girls. When we talk, that's what we mean, our girls, or our children, or our elderly, right? We are at the point where skin color cannot be the defining factor in terms of social output. We cannot afford that. Not at the moment. Not tribe. No region. We are interconnected. If we are a house, right now there is a drought that's forecasted. That drought that's forecasted, consider that plumbing. If that were a plumbing problem, how would you fix it? Right? Consider the country as such. Most people can't. I understand this, and that's why I say I've gotten a lot of advice. We have to look at these things and try to see, okay, can we patch this up? Can we lessen this? Can we increase this? Is the house Namibian house? That's the whole point of calling it a Namibian house. Is the house plumbing okay? Is the kitchen, when you open the fridge, is the food in the house? You have to view it as such. The time for non-logic is not now. Nobody can afford that, right? Not aspiring students, not aspiring teachers, leaders, nobody. And in the world, we are a country that asks for our neighbors, right? We ask this neighbor, probably, like if we ask Angola, like, can we give you meat and groceries and you give us oil, right? Trade. Or we ask South Africa. I don't know what we can ask South Africa, because we exchange practically the same things based on our history, right? That's what I mean by monopolies. We are indirectly connected because of our history, but we are not connected based on our present, and that is where the border is, and that's where the borders lie. All right. So yeah, thanks for the advice. I think that's my cue to stop.